Okay, so this is going to be a shorter video, but my plan is to show you how to import data from Excel. So if you continue on in the lecture notes on Pilot, the next 3 slides are covering the xlsread function. It says it's not recommended, but I still typically use a lot. There's a couple other more general forms, like you could read table. And this works for all types of files, not just Excel files. But it works in a very similar way. It creates a table format. But I use this a fair amount, xlsread. And so what this does is it allows you to import an Excel file. You just have to give it the file name. And then beyond that, you can give it a sheet to work on. So if I were to open the example in Pilot is this resistance data.xlsx. And so it's just kind of what the output was of the last example, just in Excel. So you could have gone in, you could have imported it into Excel pretty easily, just done like tab and space delimited, and there, done. And so I've got all this data, and so what I want to do is I want to import into MATLAB. So I can just use this xlsread function. And one of the reasons I like to use it is because I can actually use a specific format that's num text raw. And the reason I use that is because what this will do is, so if I open up this Excel sheet, I've got this header row, right, that holds text data that I might want to use, and then there's just actual numerical data. And so the baseline function for xlsread is just to import the numerical data. So if I were to do, I'm going to use the exact same format and do xlsread, and then you just type in the file name, and it has to be in a string. And this will take a second, and there it is. And so that, if I pull it up to the side, is all of this data, numeric data, that was in the Excel spreadsheet. And so the other things I could do is I could say, all right, so instead of doing that, I could, if I pull up the documentation again, I could give it a sheet and a range, see? And so I could say go from, so if I didn't want all of this data, what if I wanted to go from B3 to C7, I could do that. I could do it this way, B3 to C7. What that range means, it starts here and it picks up all the data to C7, which is going to be this kind of area right there. And so, and there. So it pulled only that data. Okay, so that's actually, it doesn't seem very useful, but it is, because you could, as I said before, you could export, you could use data as an intermediary, Excel as an intermediary, or you could be doing other analysis in Excel, import it into MATLAB, and vice versa, export it as a data file, or there's an xlswrite command. You could directly write it to an Excel file using similar syntax that I just showed you here, and you could pass things back and forth between Excel and MATLAB, which are kind of two very commonly used engineering coding languages, or just functions, because Excel does have some coding languages. A lot of people don't use them, but there is like a Visual Basic underneath that you could actually do some pretty sophisticated coding in as well. So that's not in this course. And so what are these other commands I could use? So let me show you. So the other, as I said, one of the reasons I like to use this is because I like this num text raw format. And what that does, so if I were to use that output format instead, and so I need to use it kind of exactly how it was in the documentation. I need to give it 3 output variables. I'm going to use the same format here. Let's see what happens. What it's going to do is it's going to create these 3 variables. And so let me full screen for you. And so num is the numeric array. So that's all the numbers. So it is this right here. txt, the second output is whatever text is in this. So that's going to be a cell array containing the 3 headers that I created before, right? And so that's this row right here. And then the raw is just if anything has any data in it, or if there's empty cells in between data or anything, it's going to include those in a big cell array. So if you notice, it has both the text and the numbers held in a cell array. So effectively what it does, it turns every row here, every row, column, every cell in the in this sheet of my Excel spreadsheet, it actually will store it in a raw data array that you could use to pull out later. And so let me just show you what would happen if I insert a column in between. So how does that change my final answer? And so for my numeric array, it includes that because there's data on either side of that column, but it just includes not a number. So you'd have to go in and pull those out. It does the same thing here. This is a 0x0 character array, or effectively not a number as well. And the raw just includes all of it as not a number. And so you would need to include or exclude that however you want. But it still works, see? So it includes all of the data in that Excel spreadsheet. And so like I said, it's powerful. I'm going to use it in the next example, but I just wanted to create a short video that covers this topic, so now I can use it in a little more detail later on.